So I'd like to introduce Stuart and Maggie, who will introduce themselves and talk more about the protest book that we're going to be hearing about today.
Thanks, Peter. So my name is Stuart. I've written 3 books, all published by Fictional in the UK, 2 collections of short stories, and also a novel called If This Is Home. And I was asked by Rob Page, who's the publisher of Comma, to pick a protest to write about for an anthology, which is the protest anthology, which is just at the back. So we were given a whole list of protests to write about, and I chose the Aldermaston Peace Marches, which began in 1958 and ended in 1963.
My name is Maggie. I've published 14 books. I'm sure there are other writers in the audience, and I think all writing is a form of protest. It's a form of saying this is what I think, and it's not the same as what everyone else is saying. Like Stuart, this is the second time that Common Press has commissioned me to write a short story with a theme. That's quite interesting, to write a story about something given to you. It's like a technical challenge, and mine is about the cleaners' strike in 1972, the strike by blind cleaners, which was run by a woman from Hoxton called May Hobbs. I never heard of her. I thought it was the most brilliant success story. However, I've written about it from the point of view of right now, and the point of view of the US election, the Trump election, and a modern day cleaner. And I think what we're going to do, we've been asked to do short readings, and then there's lots of questions that we want to throw around, and we want to get lots of feedback from you, and any questions you want to ask.
Unless you want to protest about that.
Yeah, it's all allowed.
Before you read, actually, Maggie, can I ask you why you decided to choose that one? Was it one that you'd already thought about prior to being asked by you, that you were already interested in it, or was it you saw the list and went, oh, that looks interesting?
Well, I always write satires in a way, and 2 of my books, there was a pair of novels about Uganda. One of them was called My Cleaner. Plus, when I first came to London, I worked as a cleaner. Plus, I now have a cleaner, so I guess I've seen it from both sides. And the cleaning strike, night cleaners, they're always the most oppressed people, the people who work out of sight, and they're still oppressed now. So that one went straight to my heart.
And did you know much about it before?
Nothing.
Right.
Which is really interesting. It happened in the 70s. I was an adult and I never heard anything about it.
Because I chose the Aldermaston Peace Marches, so assuming that you don't know what those are, but I can imagine most people do. The CAD organised a series of marches, originally from London to Aldermaston, but eventually from Aldermaston down to London, starting in 1958, the last one being 1963. And they were an amazing configuration of people, cross class, cross race, cross gender, Quakers next to radicals next to Tory Ys, etc., etc. And up to 4,000 people would walk for 4 days, sleeping in Quaker houses, in school halls, etc., on the route from Aldermaston down to London. Aldermaston is where the nuclear warheads were kept in the UK. So that was why Aldermaston was chosen. In my story, it's set in 1962, which was very much a divisive year for 2 reasons. One, first of all, was of course the Cuban Missiles Crisis occurred that year, but also was where there was a beginning to be a schism in the peace movement between the traditional peace kind of marches that we were used to, and those that thought that direct action was more appropriate for what was going on in the world and in the country at that time. And in my story, in the 1962 march, there was a deviation from the route, the Aldermaston route, to go and protest outside of what was known as an RSG, which is the regional seat of government, which was a top secret facility at the time. And an RSG would be where all the dignitaries and local bureaucracy would be taken in the event of a nuclear war. Many of these are now open. They're often called secret nuclear bunkers, with signposts on the way. I've been to many of them in the course of researching the novel, which this story is kind of broadly taken from. It's from the world of them, actually from the novel. But the one I did go to visit, on the door as you walk in, it says, experience all the terror of a nuclear disaster, but without nuclear fallout. Which goes to show you the kind of place where we are now. That's like nuclear war is fun there. Anyway, Maggie, would you like to read from your story?
Well, I think, because you just explained it, I think Stuart should read, and then I'll tell you a bit more about my real life and story. Take it away.
So I have just explained all of this, and there isn't actually much else to say. So the reason why we're reading this order, I just remembered, is that chronologically, it's episode 1962. So it's quite a long story, so I'm just going to read from the very first section. The chair wheel took its standing leg, interrupting their saying nothing. Though we buckled from the shunt, almost fell but did not down, no one, not even her, turned towards him. Like those around him, her eyes drifted on, serving high-held banners, following shivering placards on wooden stakes, browsing the heads and hats of the assembly. She walked on, and he watched her, the way she did not turn, the way she did not notice. He wanted to call her, but could not be sure if he'd already done so. Had he shouted at her, she would have turned. She would, he was sure, have paused and looked back. Of this he was certain. So yes, he could call out to her, and when he did, she would turn. Or he could say nothing. He could just say nothing, stay at the side of the collision and wait. She'd soon notice his disappearance. She'd turn back. She'd turn back and jump her way back through the crowd towards him. Yes, better that. Better to say nothing and wait. So he said nothing. He watched her walk and said nothing. On she moved, and she did not turn. Marchers slipped around him, a branch in the brook, a rock in the stream. They smiled, they talked, they sang. He watched her walk. Men came between them, a scrag, a shout and song. Women and men, children too. How many and how quickly. All happy, all singing, pouring, he thought, streaming past. He heard their voices, pockets of conversation neatly stitched, hemmed with Confederate laughter. A troop of musicians flowed ahead, their drum and flute, their guitar and arrogant trumpet, the swell of them. The swell of the hated jazz, the heavy steps, the arrhythmic hand claps, the tone-deaf voices, their teeth beneath their smiles. They flooded on and past, but he could still just see her, visible through legs and past heads, over shoulders, her gasping jacket and green scarf, her half-turned face, her hair in the curt breeze, her closed and gravid lips. Before him, a passage opened, a ricked alley past the band, boop, boop, be-doo, a clarinet joining, and straight to Matilda. I am going to join her. This he thought in a full, declarative sentence, as though for a tape, for the record. He was going to join her, but the corridor was quickly occupied by the woman in the wheelchair that charged him. She was parallel to musicians, a fiddle now, a saxophone, her progress impeded by their righteous chorus. He watched them both, she and the man she pushed. They were made of button badges, their coats and hats and scarves bathed in discs, some the size of pucks, others the size of pens. Short slavers, lines inside circles, universal symbols. He could make them out even at that distance, the glister of them in the morning shine. In front of them, Matilda walked, but did not turn. He waited for the inevitable collision, but it didn't come. The woman pushed past Matilda. He saw her face, old enough to have seen 2 wars, lined enough to have seen several more. Witch eyes and jutting chin, hairs there, most likely. So many old women in the crowd, so many old men. Her companion looked younger, perhaps her husband, perhaps her son. Where his legs once were, flat black slacks were rolled at the cuffs. She pushed and sang, rounding Matilda's speed. Free at last, she clattered others as she pushed on, scuffing shoes and nicking shins. They looked, under their button badges, gloriously, furiously happy. Drummond wanted to protest, to shout at them across the crowd, "You are to blame for this, you and your reckless progress." But they were old, and one a cripple, and both fully committed to the cause. Those around him, the big-necked youths in their dens, the stooped vicar, 3 old women and their older husbands, would turn on anyone who shouted in the face of such devotion. They would carry no pitchforks, or flaming clubs, but wield a collective withering, a common glare, shame the pacifist beating. He shouted nothing. He raged instead a silent war, a campaign against a man and woman, their pin-nail guard, their shaking fists and singing voices. He had them against a wall and held the man's legless body and beat him. How long it lasted. With every blow he moved backwards into the crowd, retreating slowly into its belly. The kindly faces, the competing bands, a timpani now, a banjo, the woman in their pearls and flat shoes, Tory wives, children on the shoulders of men, all in laughter. Laughter in spite of it all. He looked for Mathilde. He could just see her. Just the curve of her shoulder, the green scarf around her throat. Parts of her, but her nonetheless, and all of her still unturned. As he caved in the crippled skull, he lost her finally amongst the trotting crowd as they crested the coming hill.
These women were working from 10 at night to, I think, 7 in the morning, it might have been 6, and they were earning £12 a week. And they basically, most of them didn't sleep at all, because they would go home, get breakfast, get children off to school, clean the house, pick up the children from school, and go off to work again. So, yeah, they were very, very low paid, and the formal unions were not really interested in those women. And so what May Hobbs managed to do was to get the women organised into the Cleaners Action Group. The only thing I knew about at the time was the Writers Action Group, but there was, this was a much more significant kind of activity, it seems to me. And they were joined by early women's liberationists. And they got a lot of support from them. But there was a kind of slightly odd dynamic going on, because the women's liberation, women were typically kind of educated middle-class women. They weren't living that life. So they gave real support, but it's quite hard to see how much empathy there was between them all, but still it doesn't matter. They supported each other. And really, they didn't get anywhere, the Cleaners Action Group, until they organised a strike against civil service. Because what happened, if cleaning is contracted out, if you organise the women working for one contractor, well, the owners of the building just employ another contractor. But the civil service still employed directly the cleaners, and the post office and the electricians came out and support, so the civil service didn't get their letters, and everything there was done by letters. And at the end of that strike, the women's wages had gone up to 16 quid, which is a big rise, so it was a success. But May Hobbs, as I say, is a forgotten woman, and she felt that she was unable to get work anywhere else. She would go for interviews wearing a wig, but they, in the end, people were recognising her, and she was told, I've talked to her son, it sounds as though she was driven out, she felt she was driven out, and she went to Australia. She took her family to Australia, and ended up reading tarot cards. So for her it wasn't a good story, but it was great in terms of showing that you can have genuine grassroots protest that works. Okay, but now let's come back to 2017 and the time of the Trump election. And there are 4 characters. Can you hear me at the back, by the way? Yeah. There are 4 characters in this story. 3 of them are in one family, 3 generations in one family. There's Anna, there's Anna's mother, who's always called Ma, and there's Kim, Anna's daughter, who's 10. The character who's not from the family is Irina Nemirovska, a rich Russian woman from an emigre family. Anna cleans houses for a living and writes poems and lives with her mother. She never meant to, but it makes sense, Ma. Her mother helps out with Kim, of course, but Ma has lots of coursework to do for her Open University degree. politics, philosophy and economics. Ma likes to say the words with her clicking consonants and polysyllables and soft, important brain S's. Her essay this month is on politics of protest. Anna laughed out loud when Ma told her the title. If you'll get a distinction, you're always protesting. They bicker gently, mother and daughter, and sometimes savagely about kin. Ma thinks Anna should make more effort, or bitterly about politics. At the moment, it's the US election. Stop going on, Anna begs her mother. Obviously, Trump won't win. But Ma believes her daughter is clueless about the way the world is run. He's going to win because he's a celebrity. I'm ashamed of you. You just don't care. Your whole generation. You don't know you're born. Have you changed the world, Ma? At least we tried. I haven't given up, and nor should you. Could I change the world? Kim asks from the sofa where she's trying to do her homework. No, says Anna. Yes, says Ma. The house they share is a Georgian terrace, gutted by the council in the 80s. Ma had expected Anna to move out, her clever daughter, away and upwards, flying, far from Seabridge, with jobs, doctorates, fame, riches, the glittering prizes her daughter deserves as the second cleverest girl in the class. Instead, Anna got pregnant with Kim. The cleverest girl in the class, Wendy, went off to Oxford and now makes millions in the city. Ma reminds Anna about Wendy sometimes, and Anna is always quick to reply, well, you wouldn't want me to do that, because then I'd be an exploiter, right? A few millions might come in handy. But Anna is dreamy and a cleaner like Ma, or as Ma was before her elbow got bad. She still earns a bit as an Avon lady, selling cosmetics door to door. Ma isn't happy that Anna is cleaning, but that is because she is old-fashioned, as Anna kindly explains to her. It's a normal thing. Lots of my other friends do it. They like the freedom. I'm not like you. It's not forever. And yet Anna is 33. Day by day can turn into forever. Today Anna's off for an interview with this new lady, as Mark calls her scornfully, a woman recently moved down from London, a DFL, as Seabridge calls them. Irina Nemirovska is indeed a lady. Her great-grandparents came to England after the Russian Revolution, having survived a long zigzag flight through Europe, so her family hated Bolsheviks. Irina, by the blind logic of opposites, is a left-leaning former academic and writer. She would really rather not have a cleaner, but she can afford one, so why not? Besides, she likes to spread money around. That's how society should function, she thinks. Irina likes to help things along. So far, she hasn't had a good morning. She's writing an article about 1970s activism. She knows her stuff. She used to teach it, but the voice to write it in, that eludes her. She's watched once again Night Cleaners, the black and white film about the office cleaners who came out on strike in 72, led by May Hobbs, an amazing woman, no formal education, from Hoxton. One particular exchange, as she rereads the transcript, burrows inward, unsettling. Voiceover. What would socialism mean to you? Cleaners. It's a life for the people. Yeah, it's a life for the working class people. If that was possible. But that wouldn't be, could it? It couldn't be a life for the people. Voiceover. Why not? Oh, it's asking for the moon, isn't it? The way they talked, the way they hoped. Irina knows she can't catch that. Looking backwards, it all looks obvious, she thinks, the way the workers won their rights. Yes, a life for the working class people, but at the time, everything hung in the balance. Even the women didn't know it would happen. They thought it was asking for the moon. And now, Irina thought, Brexit, Trump. Brexit happened, so maybe Trump? No, impossible. But was it? It's a relief when the doorbell rings. She opens it. There is a pale, dark girl. Oh yes, of course, the girl for the job. Irina has felt naked without a cleaner. What if one of her friends came down from London? Hello, I'm Anna. I'll just change my shoes. I wouldn't like to dirty your carpet. Soon Anna's balanced on a gilt armchair. Do you have children? Irina asks. She herself is the last in her family. The house is full of gold-framed photos, recently unpacked, thick on the surfaces, gleaming scales of butterflies' wings. She hopes the cleaner won't knock them over. One girl, Kim, that's why I'm doing this, so I can be there for her. Anna smiles a virtuous smile, but secretly knows it's not true anymore. Kim comes home and goes straight to her bedroom and stays on her phone until supper time. She's putting on weight and looks secretive. Good, of course. Irina's sizing Anna up. Should she ask about her education? You didn't need one, though, to clean. I have a lot of books. I don't expect you to dust them. The most important thing is, don't touch the ones I'm actually working on. Are you a writer? I like poetry and writers. I do write things, articles mostly. A few books of political history. Mum's always saying I should have been a writer. I did come top of English at school, but I didn't go to university. Oh, you don't need to go to university to be a writer. I still write poems and other bits and pieces. Anna can see that Irina's lost interest. The old lady might have been a beauty once, fine cheekbones and red lipstick. Anna's mother never wears lipstick, despite selling it to others for Avon. If you want to write, just go for it, Irina says with an air of finality. Easy enough for you to say, Anna thinks. You want me to be your cleaner, not a writer. You want to keep writing while I clean your loo. I don't blame you, but don't pretend. This woman, adds Irina, indicating the paperback lying face down on the walnut table. Her name is May Holt, wrote a brilliant book about her life, and she had no education to speak of. She was a cleaner, like you, but she became a writer. Anna's only half listening. My mother's into politics. Oh, what does she do? Well, she used to clean, now she works for Avon. Anna feels obscurely ashamed. The Avon Foundation, says Irina, smiling. Though somehow the name doesn't sound quite right. They run creative writing courses, don't they? Several of my former pupils have been. Do they? Well, I never mentioned that. They are a splendid institution. Mars more on the selling side. Something Irina said earlier has got under Anna's skin, about the woman who is a cleaner like you. I think of myself as someone who cleans, she says, with a spurt of animation. Yes, says Irina, not understanding. Not a cleaner, Anna explains. I don't define myself as a cleaner. I do lots of things. We're all, players in the gig economy. It's a phrase she's only just learned. It caused an argument with her mother, who shouted, No, you're wrong. You're workers. You've forgotten you're all workers. You're not just like separate molecules. Later, Anna heard Kim shouting in the bar, just trying it out. I'm a worker. Right? I'm a worker. So I'm not, just a cleaner, she tells him. No, I see. A long pause. After all, a cleaner was what Irina wanted. Someone who'd really do the work. You do like cleaning, though, she probes. It's not a fucking hobby, Anna thinks. But, of course, she replies, I like to do a good job. How much do you pay? She blurts slightly rudely, but the woman doesn't look offended, and after an infinitesimal pause, names a sum just above the going rate. That'll be fine, Anna says quickly. When could you start? Irina asks. I do like a really clean kitchen and bathroom. She knows she should have said that before she made the offer. Of course, says Anna, I'm really clean. So I'll start Wednesday, she says as she leaves, and gives a specially dazzling smile. Did you see that monstrous thing Trump said? Irina asks, as Anna dallies on the doorstep, putting on her outdoor shoes, about molesting women. Oh, him, he's nuts, Anna says happily. We don't have to worry about him. See you soon. Have a great weekend.
So we both got paired off with historians and sociologists. How did you find the collaborative process with on the story.
To be honest, she wasn't part of the creative process at all.
She wasn't.
No, I mean, it can work very well when there is that kind of collaboration. But really, what interested me, what the challenge was, well, I think there are two big challenges which we solved in different ways. If you're writing short stories about protest, you don't want to be preachy. So actually, I often find that I kind of satirise the people who I agree with. In some way, I'm laughing. And also, I think the best protests, they may be serious, but, you know, a laugh never hurts. Laughter is very subversive. Laughter is, I think, people actually being themselves, being completely yourselves, the way of existing. How about you? What was your collaborative process like? Have you ever really had one? Which I didn't.
No, I had an unusual relationship, I have to say, with you. The guy who I was paired with, we had this very long Skype conversation, and he's a tribal deaf, so there was a lot of shouting over Skype, which was kind of interesting. And I'd already written most of the story by this point, so I was more like, Jim Cray says that the best form of research is to do all the research, read but make no notes, and what you remember is the stuff which really counts. So I did this kind of long way round, so I was talking to Nigel about it, and everything that he said seemed to chime with the story I'd written, and there were certain points that I just think, so boringly, he wanted to talk about the atmosphere and the emotions, and I wanted to talk about the logistics. So how did you get from point A to point B? Where did you sleep? How did you eat? When did you eat? That kind of thing. And it's like, jazz. Talked a lot about jazz. You'll notice my disdain. I actually like jazz very much, but my character does not like jazz. So I wrote the story, and I felt very confident that he would like it. And I didn't hear anything back from him after it had been sent. And in return, I got sent a DVD from the Lindsay Anderson Agitprop films of the Aldermaston Marches, which clearly the inference was, this is how it was, not like in your story. And there was a real reason for that, and I think it was because we was talking about the emotion at the time, is that my approach to all these kinds of things is, how do I make it boring? By which what I mean is, like, how do I take away the kind of the heroic impulse, or try to make it about something which is big and huge, and how do I bring it back to one particular character's kind of point of view? And one of the things about the marches that I've ever been on is that I tend to be kind of hungover in quite a bad mood. And then when I actually go on the march, what tends to happen is that I think about me rather than the grander scheme of things. The last march I was on the EU march, and felt that kind of sudden sense of, I'm doing this because I need to do it, but not in the hope that it's actually going to make any difference. I know full well that my protest is important, but I also know it's going to make literally no difference to what we're doing. And this echoed the experience of the central character of the story, who is essentially on a march for reasons that become apparent later on, but they are not the reasons for campaign for nuclear disarmament. He is there for other reasons. And as we go through the story, we realise that everybody who's on this march is there for very subtly different reasons. Some of them more nefarious than others. But ultimately what I find is that, as one of the characters says, that a crowd or a march is a plurality of voices. But within those voices there are individual voices. And I wanted to pick out one voice who wasn't there punching the air, singing along with the jazz trumpet and having this wonderful time, but being there because he is a man who believes that people should do the right thing, while at the same time he's not doing the right thing. So I thought it was a really interesting kind of way of approaching protest, but one that my collaborator, I think he thought I was, well, one thing they definitely said was that it was too contemporary, that people just weren't like that then.
When I spoke to true, but maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe we're doing something different to non-fiction writing.
No, I think that was definitely about what it wasn't doing. It wasn't replicating the faithful experience of him being on that march.
Yeah, fine.
And I think that was the thing. And the one thing that he said to me, which I love, which I put in, which is that his now wife, then girlfriend, said would not come on the Aldermaston Marches because she knew what went on there. And suddenly I was like, that was the bit that interested me the most. Like, there was all this stuff going on there, which you should do on a march, which you couldn't do elsewhere.